Might as well just record the video now.
Location guarded by hostiles.
Alright, first DPS build. Well, I wouldn't say DPS build, but it's more of like just your average build. Oh, great, no fucking drops are happening. I'm running Firewall, just for overall the, what's it called? The armor kit, because I could just tank in gunfights, right? 200% armor over a period of time is definitely good for rush downs, right? And it's really good, especially with the defender drone. My shit isn't like what's it called, like high efficiency or whatever. I don't have a tier 20 expertise, 22 expertise or whatever. But like from like what I'm giving it, like you should be fine at least. If you get the expertise up, you can really melt people, especially with the fact that even with like little to no expertise, I'm still melting people. Obviously, that was a little bit different, like what happened earlier, but it's fine. For primaries, I would recommend some kind of assault rifle. Just overall, I would say Eagle Bear is definitely a really good pick for the fact that you get a lot more accurate shots. And like headshots are just generally good to go with, and this gun makes it a lot easier to hit headshots with the fact that it has no recoil and you get like higher accuracy the longer you shoot. And not only that, tenacity just keeps getting powered up, and like which is like really the key decider for this build. With tenacity, 48% of damage is taken delayed until the buff expires. All total damage is reduced for each enemy killed while the buff is active to 100% with 3 kills. Right, so generally, if you want to just run through with tank, just tank damage that like ads are giving you, this gun is definitely for you. If you're new to the game, this game, sorry, what's it called? The overall, getting the Eagle Bear will be kind of hard for you to get, since you have to get it from the Dark Hours raid, which you can only unlock after beating the original storyline. It is a very strong assault rifle, and the raid is pretty easy. Like you just gotta learn some callouts, but there's like a lot of different Discord servers you can go to help you with that. Like personal one I recommend is GC Rock. Like I go into the Discord server quite a bit, and I'm still trying to get my Ravenous, but you know that they've definitely helped me a lot, especially with like builds and stuff like that. And I can go through like raid build breakdowns and stuff like that for like whatever you need. Other assault rifles that you can use. I also like this is another difficult one to get because it only drops from like legendary strongholds and like legendary like on summit, right? This is the Bighorn. Bighorn's also very good. While you do have all your magazine is a little bit smaller, you do make up for it with a higher rate of fire than the Eagle Bear, and especially with that you get a kind of a best of both worlds where you have a lot more accurate over range damage, considering the fact that when you ADS with this gun, it turns into a DMR, a marksman rifle, giving you 450% weapon damage with each shot, right? And headshots in general, this is for while you're in scope and out of scope, give you 2% headshot damage, right? So if you wanted to go for a headshot build, right, because I run a crit chance, crit damage on all my guns, sorry, on all my armor pieces, right? I do recommend that you could, if you wanted to, you could do crit chance with headshot, and that would also be very powerful with this, with the fact that you can just beat people. This gun is really good in PvP. Especially if you hit those headshots, and with strikers, with the 2-piece bonus, you get 15% weapon handling. Because this gun does have a little bit of recoil, so I recommend it having. If you're gonna use this gun, if you want a higher ease of use, I recommend putting some weapon handling on your build, your armor pieces, right? And overall, the Bighorn is just really like it's a really fun AR to use. It's not meta, but it's certainly very good. Right, or you could go for the Chameleon with all these armor like damage bonuses. I'm not gonna go into like super big detail. 30 headshots gives you 20% crit chance, 50% crit damage for 45 seconds. These buffs do last quite a while. Probably not the best for PvP, considering the fact that you're probably not gonna be able to keep those like stacks up for long. 75 body shots, 90% weapon damage. This is like the Chameleon is really just more of a PvP, a PvE kind of weapon. I don't think I can recommend the Chameleon for PvP, but overall, it's still a very solid gun. So if you did want to use this build for PvE, you really could. Chameleon's very solid. Secondary, It's really up to your choice. I would say the number one thing I would recommend is probably the rock and roll shotgun. If you want to get this, it's a DZ and PvP exclusive item, right? But it's not necessarily very different from the regular ACS-12. So you want to use regular ACS-12, that works just as well. The whole idea of this is it's a full auto shotgun. Each pellet counts as a stack that you land on the target, and this is really beneficial for strikers. Just for the fact that, and Heartbreaker too, if you did want to do a Heartbreaker build, for the fact that you can you have 50% extra magazine capacity, because normally ACS-12 has 20 shots. Now you're gonna have 30, so it's a lot easier to get those stacks. And generally, overall, just a really solid gun to use. It's super good for building up stacks so that you can have your max striker stacks. You can go to a gunfight with a clear advantage over your enemies. And then for your what's it called? I forgot to mention, if you did want to, you could run like something else. Like you run the Dark Winter. You could run Shield Splinter if you wanted to run extra AR. Kingbreaker is also very solid if you didn't want to run Technician instead of Firewall. Apartment also very solid. You could use that like any Vector really. They're all like really solid weapons. Next thing up, it would be your third weapon, which like your just sidearm in general. There's not much I could say you're really gaining out of this weapon spot, because you're not gonna gain anything out of like a PvP for this. But one thing I could say for sure, I'm running the wrong pistol. There we go, Orbit. I highly recommend running the Orbit. I know it's another DZ PvP exclusive item. But for all these DZ and PvP exclusive items, if you really aren't like that good at conflict, or if you really are like kind of nervous to go into the DZ, I recommend running Countdown and using those Countdown credits on named item caches, because you can pull any of these items out of it. And the reason why Orbit is so good, you can just use regular Finisher as well, also very solid, and you can put that on any pistol, so you don't have to be stuck using a revolver. But Perfect Finisher, after you get a kill, like you can just beam someone, get them to 1 HP, one tap the add or whatever with this and swap back, and you get for 15 seconds, you get 35% crit chance, 40% crit damage for 15 whole seconds, which is like really a lot. And you can really tell the difference with the damage numbers. Maybe like after this or whatever, I'll go over to base of ops and I'll show you in the shooting range, but that's really about it. All right, now for the gear pieces. So I'm running the Strikers battle gear gear set. For 2 pieces, you get 15% weapon handling, right? It's making your gun overall just a lot easier to use, a lot nicer to feel. For 3 pieces, you get 15% rate of fire, which is one of the key aspects of this. It makes a lot of guns that are maybe like slower firing a lot more like meta based. You can use these a lot easier. And for 4 pieces, Striker's Gamble. Weapon hits increase total weapon damage by 0.65%, stacking up to 100 times. 1 stack is lost per second between 0 to 50 stacks, and 2 stacks are lost per second between 50 to 100 stacks. So the reason why this is so good is because, like, right, with using the ACS-12, you can build your stacks super fast, and you can get a lot of bonus damage, right? Since we'll be having 100 stacks with this, I'm not using the chest piece. That's an extra 65% buff in weapon damage, right? And where in PvP, where armor is dominated over like all red builds, you can kind of get the best of both worlds with not only having a higher rate of fire, higher damage, but now you're going to be having higher armor as well, which is why this build works so well, right? So I rolled armor onto there. I'm running double crit chance here, just to make sure my weapons are hitting their crits more consistently. Right, let's go over to right chest piece. I'm running a Fenris chest piece. I would more likely than not want to have the core as a blue core, but obviously I didn't get that lucky. I'm running the best like perk overall to run for your chest piece in PvP is usually Unbreakable or Spotter, depending on like whatever build you're running. But I would say Unbreakable is probably the best, considering that every 60 seconds in PvP. So in PvE. It says 95% of your armor, but in PvP, I believe it is like 40 to 50% of your armor, which is still good, right? Especially since the fact that we have a very high like number of armor, right? The reason why you're gonna be running Fenris, or you could run Sokolov, which is the SMG essentially version of what's it called? Of like Fenris, just the SMG variant of it essentially. And maybe if you want to run like another weapon that's really good in PvP is the Lady Death, right? Considering that you get that high movement speed, you're a lot harder to track and hit. But not only that, you get 75% amplified weapon damage just for running. So that's really good just in general. So if you did want to run the Lady Death instead of the Eagle Bear, because it's a lot easier to get, it's not a raid exclusive. You could farm targeted SMG loot and countdown for that. You could. Right, I'm running crit chance, and then crit damage again, right? And then most likely than not, like, I would have to get super lucky, find a double crit for the attributes, and then core attribute, I would have to, like, get lucky enough to either find a blue core. I don't think it rolls with blue core. Or just a double crit with Unbreakable, so it is kind of rare to find. But if you do find one, you're basically set. This build works just as well with the red core. The blue core would be like more likely though. So if you do find a double crit Unbreakable Fenris chest piece, keep that, favorite that, and then after that put the like re-roll the core attribute to a blue core, so you can get that extra armor, that better survivability. Right, next piece of strikers, I'm putting the holster on here. Right, just find crit damage, crit chance, whatever works for you, and then after that, you're gonna want to roll a blue core attribute onto the backpack. Right, this is where we get the talent in place. So while you are losing a typical backpack talent, like one that would be really good for PvP is like Adrenaline Rush, right, on like on my Matador. The benefit of this is that it increases the damage per the striker stack. Right, how we said striker stacks were each 0.65%, and now it's 1%. So that means each stack you're getting a 0.35% increase. So at that point, now you're getting 100% extra damage if you have max stacks with strikers, which is a huge bonus, and that's more than you can ever get with all red cores, right? I'm running crit chance and crit damage on my backpack. Right, this is the next thing we're gonna have is the best in slot gloves for any DPS build. Just ignore this. I couldn't find a blue core that I wanted to get rid of, especially for my Yaahl, right? But what's it called? For my contractor's gloves, right? While it is part of Petrov, and we're not really using an LMG, it's not gonna really matter for the fact that we are getting that 8% damage to armor, which is a multiplicative, right? So you're now getting an extra 1.08% added to your overall damage to armored enemies. And not only that, we're gonna have 5% crit chance on here. For any DPS build, any like PvP build, contractors are a must, considering the fact that 8% damage to armor is huge, especially in an armor-dominated meta, because it allows for people who don't have as much base weapon damage to compete with 8% damage to armor. Another best in slot you could run here would be the Fox's Prayer, because they also come with another multiplicative of 8% damage to targets out of cover, which is also very good. So necessarily you can choose between having either the contractors or the damage to targets out of cover. I feel like you're more likely to get more out of targets that damage out of cover. Sorry, you're out of damage to armor. But if you really wanted to, you could run Fox's Prayer if you didn't have that. It's essentially almost the same thing, except with Overlord you're gonna be getting 10% rifle damage instead of LMG damage. So it's really all your choice. But here we rolled the blue core, right? We're gonna have more armor, and we're gonna have crit chance as our attribute. As far as skills, I say if you're in the dark zone, Scanner Pulse is always just really good to have. I mean, there are people who run a Pulse Immunity like over builds, right? So if you really did want to, you could run decoys to make sure that they're a lot harder to track. Sticky bombs are also very good. Doesn't really matter which one you run. If you run like explosive or burn is usually typically better. You could run shields. Shields are not really good in PvP, but if you want a wall PvE while you're clearing out landmarks, you could run that. Another safe one, like let's say you're extracting, right? Some shit in the DZ. You put on that Stinger Hive, and overall you're just gonna be set. You drop it right on the extract, so that way anyone who tries to cut your rope is gonna get hit with bleed and some extra damage. So you'll have a lot easier chance of winning that gunfight. Next thing, this is by far the most important skill in the game, especially for PvP. There's no skill that's better than it. That is the Defender Drone. Defender Drone reduces overall damage. In PvP, it reduces any incoming damage you take by 10%. At least that's just for right now, considering the fact that I don't have my expertise up. But it's probably the best skill in the game, realistically, with max expertise. I think you can start blocking up to like 30 to I think like 30% damage or like 20% damage. It's a lot. It's really excessive. And it's actually a really huge problem right now. So I say while it's still here, while it's still broken, which it probably will be for a while, because I don't think the devs care about PvP. I say overall, like, just get your expertise up, go to your workbench, right? Just max out your expertise on all your items. That way you can go come in with like extra like decreased damage essentially. Other than that, my shade level is not max, right? I don't have all my my factors in like completely maxed out, right? So if we go to stats, we're just gonna go. This is basing off the with the Eagle Bear, right? For right now, you're gonna have around maybe 52 to 50, 53% crit chance, which is generally like it's not max crit chance. So if you want to, you could get rid of some of the crit damage rolls. I probably could do that as well and get my max crit chance. I have like 105 crit damage. Remember, this is with not all maxed out stats, and then 65% headshot damage. Overall, like right, we have the 8% armor damage, 21% health damage from the AR. That's the AR passive talent. Right, all these others like stats that like generally aren't like maybe like that necessary, but you kind of get the point. The reason why this build is so strong, you get high damage, you get a high armor, and then all that you get a higher rate of fire. So overall, your DPS stays through the roof. You can even get higher crit damage, right? Remember with the perfect finisher. So if you're in like in a fight right now, there's an ad that's low to you. Get behind cover, shoot them with your perfect finisher talent on your orbit or whatever, and then you'll be dealing a significant amount of damage extra to your opponents. While this is like probably like one of my favorite builds to run, one thing I also like to point out, there's another build that I also like to run that's typically good in PvP, and this is actually a skill build. I think I forgot to switch some stuff around, but let me just go put my crit chance on there. This is another build that I typically like to use, right? So we're running the Technician here. This is a high survivability, high damage build, running with the Ninja Bike Messenger Bag, right? Your overall primary here we're going to be using the Capacitor. This is the best like in slot for any skill build for any assault rifle. The other option you could use is the Test Subject, considering it has that perfectly in sync. But since you're already using an AR, maybe you want to swap to the Harmony, which also has perfectly in sync. It's also a really solid DMR to use in general. The whole point of you using the Capacitor is that for every skill tier, you get 7.5% weapon damage, and while shooting enemies, each shot that is a confirmed hit is a stack that caps out at 40. Each stack gives 1.5% skill damage, right, and it slowly decays over time. The whole benefit of this is that if you have max stacks, which is typically very easy, you can have a full 60% extra skill damage, which is very nice. Along with that, I'm running the Dark Winter. You can run like any secondary here. It doesn't really matter, right? Like I said, you could run the Harmony if you wanted to, but since we're talking about using this for PvP, maybe like the Shield Splinterer, or you're gonna be running. Like I said, you actually could run the Kingbreaker. I was the Kingbreaker would be a very good option. The only reason you're really using the Capacitor for PvP is because it has that 12% when it's maxed out damage to armor, which is really, really, really strong. Especially with the fact that you can take advantage of that. There's other ways you can work this build, but it doesn't really matter. Right, then we have my Orbit, like we had talked about earlier. Shoot an ad that's real low, and then you get 35% crit chance, 40% crit damage for 15 seconds. Really solid, really important to have. With the Ninja Bike, this is the reason why this build works as it does. We have its talent Resourceful. Slots with equipped gear brand set or brand set items, right? It will fill the requirement by 1. Like let's say you have 1 piece of Fenris, it'll now give you technically 2 pieces of Fenris, while you're only using the actual 1. and it unlocks bonuses for multiple sets entirely. And while the Ninja Bike is very useful and like allows for a lot of build creativity, it does negatively affect some builds more than others for that lack of having a backpack talent. For example, for like all red crit builds, you not having vigilance there is a real downgrade, and it doesn't work with every build, but I'd say it works with this build pretty well, right? We can take advantage of the Ninja Bike with having two-piece Empress, but now with the Ninja Bike we have three. So you're gonna have skill haste, skill damage, skill haste, right? Nothing out of the normal. We're going to be running Picaro's holster. The benefit of having Ninja Bike here is that not only, so normally we just get the 10% skill haste, which is really good. But now with the Ninja Bike backpack, we have one extra skill tier. So think of it like an extra memento, kind of in a way, or an extra Ninja Bike, for the fact that it gives you a blue core with Picaro's. This is like best in slot for a holster for like a lot of builds. It gives you a blue core, a red core, and you get an extra attribute you can do whatever you want with. And now since we're running Ninja Bike, it's essentially we're getting every single core attribute like added to this build, which is really, really, really good. I would say like this is in competition for like one of the best hybrid builds in the game, right? Next we're going to our second piece of Empress, right? Obviously it could be better having that, what's it called? Crit chance skill damage. There is one way you could work this where if you really wanted to, you could get the contractors and then roll a skill tier on here if you really wanted to, because you are going to be losing a skill tier. Like if I use this right now, I'm missing out on a skill tier. But like overall, it's just super solid. I would say like obviously you're probably going to skill damage, skill haste, or whatever, right? Like anything of the sort. But if you did eventually get a contractors, you could put a skill tier on here. You get extra damage armor. You're gonna have 20% damage to armor, which is absolutely insane. It's gonna melt in PvP. And then for our last regular piece, we're gonna have the Hannah Yu knee pads, right? So while we normally once again would get only 10% skill haste, we're now getting 10% skill damage, right? There's a lot of ways you could run this build. I would recommend I forgot, I skipped over my chest piece. So for my chest piece, I'm gonna be running that same Fenris chest piece with double crit and unbreakable. There was one I was running beforehand. I think I ran spotter, perfect spotter. And then I ran what was another piece I ran? Oh yeah, the Ferocious Calm, which is a DZ exclusive. But the reason why this chest piece is so good, at least for skill builds and just in general, is because of that perfect Overwatch. So not only am I getting a 10% buff to my capacitor, so it deals even more damage now, but on top of that, I'm gonna have a extra 15% weapon damage. I kind of did wish that it did roll a double crit, so I could roll an armor core on here, but you know you can't win them all. Perfect Overwatch when you're in cover for 8 seconds, which technically does happen a lot in PvP, at least in Conflict it does. Your allies and your skill damage goes up by 12% as long as you remain in like cover to cover combat. It's certainly very solid. I don't think it's necessarily the best choice. I think like once again having Unbreakable is like certainly like the best possible like situation you could have here. As I said earlier, what's it called? The Defender drone is probably your is most likely your best bet, because now in PvP I have a almost 30% damage reduction. In regular PvE I have like over 50%, but the Defender drone is just super solid, especially for that fact, because it's kind of making up for the fact that I don't have that expertise, and it would be even more powerful if I did have that expertise for extra damage reduction. Now for your other option. You can kind of really run anything you want here. I think you get the most out of the Stinger Hive. Generally just because it's really good protection for you if you're trying to extract something in the DZ. It's also really good if you're flanking in conflict and you're on the lower level. You could throw it above, so that way if your enemy's on high ground, they're all going to get stuck with bleeding, they're all going to run away, and who knows, they could just fall onto you. Because like we said, you're going to have really high damage with this build, along with having every skill tier, for the fact that you get 7.5% weapon damage for every skill tier. We do have the 6 skill tiers, and along with that, let me see. So that's, if I'm having trouble doing math in my head right now, but that's already 45 like 45% weapon damage, right? And then you're getting an extra 25, so that's gonna be 70% weapon damage from this build. And then after that, you're gonna have 85, and then after that, ending off 85 with another 15, so that'll be 100% weapon damage with this build. So you're getting 100% weapon damage for your capacitor. You're gonna have unbreakable. You're gonna have 1.1 million armor, right? It could be higher considering if I had a blue core here, which you would be losing 15% weapon amplified damage, but your armor definitely makes up for that. Having 1.3 million armor would definitely make up for that. And overall, it's just a super solid build in general because you already get your skill tiers. You're gonna have your survivability. You're gonna have, especially with the defender drone, you're definitely gonna have survivability. And then not only that, you're gonna have your weapon damage. You're gonna have your armor. You're gonna have your skill tiers. Overall, this build's really solid. And it's generally just super easy to outmaneuver enemies, especially with my Stinger Hive, for the fact that it deals like over 1 million damage to them, which is just super solid. They're stuck with their bleed, and not only that, I have an advantage, having a much higher survivability, being able to tank way more shots than they can, and just generally having a lot of high damage to armor. Which is why I say, like, if you could, because you don't really need skill efficiency with this build. You're not gonna like necessarily need it. Maybe it would be more beneficial to your defender drone, but you can honestly live without it. So if you did get a contractor's gloves and you got it with like crit chance or crit damage as your secondary attribute, because you can't reroll the damage to armor, you're gonna want to put a skill tier on here. That way you can keep your skill tier, like your 6 skill tiers, so that way none of your other skills get downgraded, and then you have an extra 8% damage to armor for free, and that's obviously just really strong. Other than that, I think my final build that I'll be like showcasing here today is probably like my typical go-to. Like there are a couple issues with this build, but like with enough grinding, I could probably find a better way to fix it. For PvP, you can either run the Chameleon, right? We already went over this. The Chameleon, Eagle Bear, Bighorn, right? Doesn't really necessarily matter. I would say Eagle Bear is probably your best bet, but surprisingly, with this build, the Chameleon does kind of shred. So if you really did want to, you could. I'm gonna put my apartment. Actually, where's my apartment? Here we go. My apartment on there. And then I have my orbit, right? We already went over the Eagle Bear apartment. The reason why this SMG is really good, perfectly measured, is its talent. Another DZ exclusive, right? Top half of the magazine has a 20% rate of fire, and you lose 27% weapon damage. But the bottom half of the magazine switches that around, where you have 20% rate of fire and 33% total weapon damage. So this SMG is really good for that initial burst. But this number right here is not showcasing the actual damage change, because this SMG has a lot more damage than you think it does. The SIG MPX already has a really high base damage, and now I have 850 RPM. This is without strikers. This gun also works really well with strikers, by the way. So if you did want to run that on the first build, I could 100% recommend it. It's very good. But essentially, you will be firing almost as fast as a Vector. With that 50 round mag, and then it's gonna swap around, so your RPM will go down a bit, but your damage significantly increases. So this SMG is very solid. Right, we already went over my orbit with perfect finisher. Just make sure that you land a hit on a low ad, you get that kill with the orbit. 35% crit chance, 40% crit damage for 15 seconds. I'm running 3-piece Yaahl. The armor rolls on here are not going to be very good, so don't judge me for it. I'm going to be running a, what's it called? I'm running a Fox Sprayer. I did wish I had a Yaahl, Yaahl knee pads, so I could run the contractor's gloves. But for now, I'm just going to keep it this way. Right, for my first piece of Yaahl, right, like, ignore the rolls. I haven't really used this build in a while, but it's certainly still very good. With the Yaahl set, this is a DZM PvP exclusive. Same thing with the gear set for system corruption. System corruption is also very good. I was planning on making a build for it when I grind some more pieces. But with 3-piece Yaahl, you get 10% hazard protection, you get 5% weapon damage, and you get 40% pulse resistance. So this is like for these pulse resistant like builds. If you wanna if you're losing a lot to Heartbreaker builds, where they're running spotter, they're getting all the amplified damage on you, or if you don't want people knowing where you are all the time, it's certainly a very solid build to run. Right, I'm trying to keep as many blue cores as possible. I didn't get that lucky with this build, but it's certainly something super easy you could grind for. Running double crit, obviously, right, and then I'm running a 9.2% pulse resistance mod. I did wish it was at 9.5, so I could still get the notification and not get pulsed, but 9.2 works for now. So I have not like 99.2% pulse resistance overall with this build. Going up next, what's it called? We have the Fenris chest piece that I've showed for all my builds so far today. Right, double crit, unbreakable. Didn't get lucky, didn't have that blue core, but it is what it is. And the reason why this works so well is because now my Eagle Berries will be doing a lot more damage for the fact that I'm getting not only that 10% AR damage bonus, but I do have that 15% weapon damage bonus overall. It's not going to really matter for the fact that I would be getting this 10% extra, so I would prefer the blue core, but you know, we make do with what we have. Right, back with these low armor rolls. Don't flame me for these in the comments, but double crit once again, right? Matador, this is a DZ exclusive Walker and Harris backpack. This fucking the overall like Walker Harris brand set is so good for the fact that you get 5% weapon damage with just one piece. You know, that's really strong. And not only that, you get 5% damage to armor with a second piece. So if you did want to, you wanted extra damage to armor. So you can have a Contractors, you can have a second piece Walker Harris. It's really all your choice. It's just really good. And the reason why I'm running this is because I would rather have the blue core, right? Because I'm already getting extra 5% weapon damage. So that with my Fenris would be essentially be an extra red core. It's for that perfect adrenaline rush. When you're within 10 meters of an enemy, this applies to AI as well, by the way, any ads that you're in the area. So if you did want to just rush down some ads, it's super easy. You could just do that. Gain 23% bonus armor for 5 seconds. Stacks with that 3 times. So you can essentially just get 60% extra bonus armor. Like all 60+% bonus armor. And like you get more value out of this, the more armor you have. Right? The more survivability you have. And the cooldown is also super low. So this refreshes super easily, and it's to the point where it'll outlast your damage, like your overall like bonus armor. So most likely you're not gonna be losing all your bonus armor if you're going against ads. So you can essentially keep an extra bonus like pool of armor, so you always have that high survivability. But in PvP, it will drop. But then again, you do have your unbreakable again. So if you want, you can continue outstalling that. Right, then we have our third and final piece of Yaahl gear. On my gloves, max armor roll, crit damage, crit chance, right? Nothing new. Once again, I would prefer, what's it called? Running the Contractor's gloves, right? But I don't have that luxury considering the fact that I only have, I don't have any Yaahl knee pads, right? And then in replace of that, I'm running the Fox's Prayer, right? 10% rifle damage. Not using a rifle, so I'm not gonna get a lot of this, but I will have that 8% damage to targets that I cover, which is really good. Multiplicative as well. And then I have my crit damage. Right here again, I highly recommend running a scanner pulse. Just finding enemies is super easy. Once again, if you don't want to run the scanner pulse, because you're in like lobbies that maybe have like high pulse resistance, I can run your Stinger Hive to protect yourself when you're extracting, sticky bombs, or like decoys. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just tripping, but I can't find my EMP one. I don't know if they banned it from the Dark Zone or not. I think they did. I don't know. I came back to the game after a while, but these are just some meta builds that I saw that are like really strong. And then you're gonna be running the Defender drone again. Overall, like these builds do have like a lot of damage and survivability, right? Because you're gonna want to keep what's it called, That Unbreakable is super good. I don't think there's a better chest piece talent for PvP or PvP. It really doesn't get better than that, and just getting all your armor back. But overall, those were like some of the main builds I have. I don't think there's anything else. I mean, like, you're not gonna be running on all red build. I can probably go into this build like on a later date, maybe for people who are trying to get into like the Dark Hours raid. I do have Heartbreaker as well. Like, if you want Heartbreaker, is always like super solid. I have like 2 different Heartbreaker builds. This one's a lot better. Different skill. Like, I have this Seeker Mine build that I did not change the chest piece for some reason. But overall, just super solid builds. So if you did want to, I could make more videos. Other than that, that should be it. Just kind of just going into detail on like all these other builds that I have a lot of fun using. And other than that, that's really about it. I could make more DZ videos if people want to see them, but other than that, that's really about it. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment or whatever. You got some build recommendations, you want me to make a video on something. And that'll be it. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you later. Bye.